The galaxy had been trembling for months, and no one dared to say it aloud. Whispers traveled faster than light about the beast of the alien queen, a creature born from ancient wars and said to obey only her voice. Entire armies fled when its glowing eyes appeared on the battlefield. But then one day the beast was gone. No trace, no sound, no trail in the stars. The queen's enemies rejoiced, thinking the terror was ended, while her people sank into fear, certain that something worse was waiting. It was a silence heavier than any roar. The war began without warning, spreading across ruined worlds and broken stations. Among the wreckage of shattered fleets, one lone human soldier survived. His name was Elias, a man who had fought too many battles and had learned that survival often came down to luck rather than skill. His armor was dented, his pulse rifle nearly useless, and his strength was drained. He stumbled across an ancient city, its marble walls overgrown with glowing moss and alien vines. The silence there was unnatural, as though the ruins themselves were holding their breath. Elias leaned against a crumbling pillar, catching his breath. He thought of his squad, all gone now, burned away in the skies above. He thought of Earth, so far away it felt like a dream. He knew he had only two choices left: to lie down and give up, or to keep moving until death found him. But something made him pause. The air was alive with a strange vibration. Not quite a sound, not quite a feeling, but something crawling under his skin. He gripped his broken weapon tighter and turned his eyes toward the shadows. Out from the ruins, two glowing eyes appeared. They cut through the dust and dim light like twin stars. Elias froze. Every story he had ever heard as a child came rushing back. Stories of a war beast with stripes that glowed like fire and claws that could cut through steel. His mind screamed at him to run, but his body refused. The ground trembled as the massive figure stepped into view. It was larger than any predator he had ever seen. A monstrous shape of muscle and armor with fur streaked in neon blues and violets that pulsed like living lightning. Its curved horns scraped the stone as it moved, and its breath misted the air, carrying the scent of metal and wild earth. Elias could barely breathe. He knew what this was. The Queen's beast. The monster said to crush entire armies beneath its paws, and it was standing right before him. The creature lowered its head, not in attack but in something else. Its eyes glowed brighter, studying him as if trying to understand. Elias raised his rifle out of reflex, but his hands were shaking so badly he could hardly aim. The beast did not move closer. Instead, it let out a sound that was not quite a growl, not quite a sigh. It was almost weary. Elias blinked, unsure if his fear was twisting his mind. Slowly, he lowered his weapon. His heart was beating so loud he thought the beast would hear it and pounce. But nothing happened. Instead, the massive creature moved to the side and lay down. Its enormous body curled like a storm cloud collapsing, and in the dust of the ruins it rested its glowing head at his feet. Elias felt the heat of its breath against his boots. His mind reeled. He had heard of men being devoured alive, of cities burned by its rage, yet here it was, pressing itself against him as though he were its master. Elias could not understand why. He had no crown, no command, no alien blood. He was just a soldier, tired and broken, yet the most feared beast in the galaxy had chosen him. As the sun set behind the ruins, its glowing stripes lit the night like fire. Elias sat frozen, his hand hovering above its fur, afraid to touch yet unable to look away. Somewhere far away, he knew, the alien queen would be searching, and when she learned where her beast had gone, nothing in the galaxy would remain the same. Elias barely moved, afraid that the smallest motion would break the strange spell. The war beast's glowing eyes were half closed now, its chest rising and falling with slow breaths. For a moment it looked less like a monster and more like some giant, exhausted guardian. Still, Elias knew the truth. This was the terror of the alien queen, the living weapon of her empire. If it chose to, it could crush him into the ground with a single swipe. Yet here it was, lying at his feet as if seeking comfort. He let his hand hover over the creature's striped fur. The glow from its body bathed his arm in flickering colors of violet and blue. Finally, he gathered his courage and touched it. The fur was softer than he expected, though beneath it he could feel the solid muscle and faint hum of some unnatural energy. The beast rumbled low in its throat and Elias froze, but instead of striking, the sound was almost like a purr. His fear slowly gave way to disbelief. He whispered under his breath, "Why me?" There was no answer, only the sound of the beast settling deeper against the stone. Elias thought of all the alien warriors who would kill just to stand this close without being ripped apart. If they saw him now, sitting in the ruins with the Queen's beast resting at his feet, they would never believe it. Or worse, they would hunt him for it. The silence of the ruins was broken suddenly by a distant crack. Elias stiffened. Somewhere beyond the broken walls, weapons had fired. The war was never far away. His heart pounded as he listened, but the beast only raised its head slightly, glowing eyes watching the horizon. It did not seem afraid. If anything, it seemed annoyed, as though disturbed from its rest. Elias wondered if the soldiers out there knew what waited in these ruins. He forced himself to think. He was alone, lost, and half-starved. Yet now he had something no army could claim. If the beast had truly chosen him, then he was no longer just another broken soldier. But could he trust it? Or was this some strange trick? A way to lure him into lowering his guard before being destroyed? He looked into its eyes, glowing like burning stars, and felt a strange certainty. This was no trick. The beast had made its choice. Slowly, Elias stood, his legs unsteady. The beast rose with him, its massive body towering higher than the ruined walls. Its claws dug into the stone, sending small rocks tumbling down. Elias could feel the vibration through the ground. The glowing stripes across its back brightened as if responding to his movement. It was watching him, waiting for him to decide where to go. For the first time, Elias realized he was not the one following anymore. He was being followed. He walked forward carefully, and the beast moved behind him, its steps shaking the earth. The ruins around them seemed to grow alive with color as the sunset deepened. In the distance, more weapon fire echoed, and Elias's grip on his useless rifle tightened. He knew he was walking toward danger, but the beast kept close, every muscle ready. Then came a sound that froze his blood. A scream carried by the wind, sharp and full of terror. Elias stopped, his instinct screaming to turn away, to hide. But the beast raised its head and let out a roar that shook the broken towers. The sound was not only loud but filled with power that rattled Elias's bones. It was the call of something ancient, something that would not be ignored. The scream in the distance was cut short. Silence fell again. Elias looked at the beast in shock, realizing the truth. The war beast had not just found him. It had claimed him, and whatever hunted in the ruins now knew it. Elias had never heard anything like that roar. It seemed to shake the entire city, bouncing from every wall and broken tower. Dust rained down from the ruins, and small creatures scattered into the shadows. The sound was not just noise, it was a declaration, something powerful enough to send a warning across miles. Elias felt it in his bones, and he knew others would have felt it too. Whoever was out there firing weapons, they now knew the beast was alive. The massive creature lowered its head after the roar, glowing eyes fixed on Elias. There was something strange in its stare, as though it expected him to understand. Elias's mouth went dry. "What do you want from me?" he whispered. But again there was no answer. Only silence and the steady hum of energy rolling off its body. It stayed close, almost brushing against him, protective but also restless, as if waiting for him to make a choice. Elias moved cautiously through the ruins, his boots crunching against stone and moss. The beast followed, each step heavy, its neon stripes glowing brighter in the darkening sky. He felt both comforted and terrified by its presence. Comforted, because no enemy soldier would dare approach while it was near. Terrified because he had no idea how long this bond would last, or if it could turn on him at any moment. As they walked, Elias spotted movement in the shadows of a fallen tower. He froze and raised his broken rifle, though he knew it would barely fire. From behind the rubble, figures stepped out. Not humans, aliens, tall and armored, their faces hidden behind masks carved with sharp designs. There were 4 of them, hunters from one of the Queen's enemy clans. Their weapons glowed faintly in the dark, aimed straight at Elias. One of them barked a word he didn't understand, but the meaning was clear enough. "Drop the weapon, surrender." Elias's grip tightened. His instinct was to fight, but the beast beside him growled, a deep rumble that rolled across the stones like thunder. The hunters froze at the sound. Their glowing weapons flickered, and one of them took a nervous step back. They knew this creature. Everyone did. The beast shifted forward, its horns scraping the ruined wall, eyes blazing with violet light. The hunters began to retreat slowly, but Elias noticed something strange. They were not afraid of him at all. They were afraid of angering the beast. Their eyes never left it, their bodies tense like prey staring at a predator. Elias felt a shiver run through him. In that moment he realized how the galaxy must have seen this monster. Not as a companion, not as a living being, but as a weapon of fear. Yet here it was, guarding him like its chosen alpha. One hunter raised a trembling hand and shouted something in his alien tongue. The others responded, but instead of attacking, they turned and fled into the ruins, vanishing into the shadows. Elias lowered his rifle slowly, his heart pounding in his ears. The beast let out another low growl, satisfied, before returning to his side. Elias sank down on a block of stone, his chest heaving. He looked at the beast and shook his head in disbelief. "You just saved me," he said softly. It blinked once, as though acknowledging the words. For the first time, Elias felt a spark of something that wasn't fear. It was trust, fragile and uncertain, but it was there. Night fell over the ruins and stars filled the broken sky. Elias leaned back against the cold stone, too exhausted to keep moving. The beast curled close again, its body radiating warmth like a living furnace. Elias closed his eyes, his thoughts swirling. If the Queen's enemies had seen the beast alive, then word would spread fast. Soon, not just hunters, but armies would come. And somewhere the Queen herself would learn her war beast had chosen another master. The night was long, and Elias barely slept. Every sound in the ruins made him jolt awake, but each time he opened his eyes, the beast was still there, glowing softly in the dark. Its stripes shimmered like rivers of light across its massive body, casting strange patterns on the stone walls. Sometimes its eyes opened too, bright and watchful, scanning the shadows for dangers Elias couldn't see. He realized with a strange sense of comfort that he was safer here next to this creature than he had ever been with an army at his back. At dawn, the ruins glowed under pale sunlight. Elias rose slowly, stretching his aching muscles. The beast stood too, shaking off dust and letting out a low rumble. Its horns gleamed and its claws carved faint marks into the stone with each step. Elias noticed it never strayed far. Wherever he went, it followed, silent and steady like a shadow that refused to leave. As they moved through the broken city, Elias found signs of life. Tracks in the dust, scraps of food, and broken weapons. Others had been here recently. Perhaps more hunters, perhaps survivors of the war. He kept his guard up, though he knew that with the beast at his side, no small band of raiders would dare attack. Still, he couldn't ignore the thought that each step forward brought him closer to discovery. By midday, his fears came true. A drone hummed overhead, its red light scanning the ruins. Elias ducked behind a wall, but the beast stood tall, its glowing stripes pulsing brighter as if challenging the machine. The drone froze in the air, then darted away. Elias cursed under his breath. That's it. They'll know you're here now. He wasn't wrong. Hours later, movement stirred on the horizon. Elias climbed a crumbled tower and spotted them. Troop carriers, sleek alien machines rolling across the broken land. Dust clouds rose in their wake and armored soldiers marched in tight formation. They were not hunters this time. This was an army, and from their banners Elias could tell exactly whose army it was. These were the Queen's own. His blood turned cold. If the Queen's forces were here, then she already knew her beast had been found. Elias scrambled down from the tower, his heart racing. The beast followed, unbothered, its glowing eyes fixed on the incoming soldiers. Elias tried to think. If they caught him, they wouldn't just kill him. They would take the beast back, and his strange place at its side would end. He didn't even know why the creature had chosen him, but he wasn't ready to lose it. The ground began to tremble as the soldiers drew closer. Their voices echoed through the ruins, shouting orders in their sharp alien language. Elias tightened his grip on his rifle, though it was half broken. His mind screamed at him to run, but he had nowhere to go. The beast lowered its head, horns gleaming, muscles tensed. It was ready to fight an army. Elias's heart pounded in his chest. He knew what this meant. If the Queen's forces saw him beside the beast, they would not see a soldier lost in the ruins. They would see a thief who had stolen their greatest weapon. They would call him an enemy of the crown, and there would be no escape from that. The first wave of soldiers stepped into the city. Their armor gleamed, their weapons charged. They moved with confidence, certain their Queen's beast would return to them at once. But when they rounded the corner and saw it standing protectively at Elias's side, their ranks faltered. Helmets turned, voices rose in confusion. This was not what they expected. The beast growled, the sound rolling like thunder through the ruins. Elias stood frozen beside it, knowing the moment had come. His fate was no longer his alone. It was bound to the beast and now to the Queen herself. The soldiers spread out across the ruins, their boots striking hard against the stone. Elias could feel their eyes burning into him from behind their glowing visors. They ignored his broken rifle. They ignored his ragged armor. All their focus was on the beast standing at his side. Murmurs in their alien tongue passed through the ranks, disbelief and confusion rising like smoke. One soldier raised his weapon, but the beast's eyes flared bright violet, and a warning growl rumbled so deep the ground shook beneath them. The soldier froze, weapon trembling, then lowered it slowly. Fear spread like a wave through the formation. This was no wild animal. It was the Queen's chosen, the living terror that had bent entire armies. Yet here it was, pressing its body protectively near a lone human. Elias stood stiff, his throat dry. He wanted to speak, to tell them he had not stolen it, that the beast had come to him. But he knew his words meant nothing here. To them he was an intruder, a thief, a man who had no right to be alive beside their queen's greatest weapon. The ranks of soldiers parted suddenly. From the rear, a tall figure in black and silver armor stepped forward, her presence heavy as a storm. She wore no mask, only a crown-like helm of curved metal horns. Her eyes were sharp and burning, her face proud, beautiful, and cold as carved stone. Elias knew her at once. The alien queen herself had come. The soldiers dropped to one knee as she passed, their voices chanting her title in low unison. The ruins seemed to bow beneath her steps, but Elias could not move. He could only stare as she stopped just a few paces away, her gaze fixed not on him but on the beast. "Rise," she commanded, her voice carrying like thunder. The soldiers obeyed instantly, forming a circle around the ruins. Then she looked at Elias for the first time, her eyes narrowing with sharp curiosity. "You," she said, her voice low but filled with power. "Human." Elias tightened his grip on his rifle, though he knew it was useless. His heart pounded so hard he could barely breathe. The queen tilted her head slightly, her gaze drifting back to the beast. "Do you know what it is you stand beside? Do you understand what you touch?" Her words dripped with disbelief, almost anger. The beast growled softly, lowering its massive head near Elias, as if to remind her of its choice. Gasps rippled through the soldiers. The queen's eyes widened, her expression breaking for the first time. Not with rage, but with shock. "This cannot be," she whispered. Her voice was quieter now, though every soldier strained to hear. "It has never chosen another. It has never bent its head to any but me." Elias swallowed hard. "I didn't make it happen," he said, his voice rough. It chose me." The soldiers stirred uneasily, muttering among themselves. The queen raised a hand, and silence fell instantly. Her burning eyes locked onto Elias again. For a long moment she said nothing, only studied him as though he were some puzzle carved by fate. Finally she spoke. "If what I see is true, then the galaxy itself has shifted. You, human, have stolen what no army could take." Her voice grew colder, heavier with command. "And for that you will answer to me." The beast growled again, louder this time, its glowing stripes flaring like fire. It pressed closer to Elias, its massive horns turned toward the queen as if ready to defend him. Soldiers raised their weapons nervously, but none dared fire. The queen did not flinch. She only stared at the beast, then at Elias, her voice sharp as a blade. "So be it. If my war beast has chosen you, then you belong to me as well." The queen's words struck harder than any weapon. Elias stared at her, unsure if he had heard right. "You belong to me as well." The soldiers around them seemed just as shocked, their helmets turning, their whispers sharp and nervous. No one dared challenge her command, but the air itself seemed heavier now, thick with unease. The beast rumbled, its glowing body pressed closer to Elias, but it did not move against her. Elias understood the truth then. It would not fight its queen. It had not abandoned her entirely, it had simply chosen him too. That realization chilled him more than anything else. He was not free. He was caught in something much larger than himself. The queen lifted her hand, and her soldiers formed into ranks once more. "Bring him," she ordered. Elias tensed, raising his broken rifle, but the beast growled at the soldiers, forcing them to halt. The queen's eyes narrowed, and her voice dropped low, calm and commanding. "Enough, he comes willingly. Or none of you will leave these ruins alive." Elias's throat tightened. He looked at the beast, its glowing eyes fixed on him, waiting. It seemed to expect him to follow her, as if this was the only path left. He had fought in too many wars to miss the truth. If he refused, the queen's army would kill him. If he ran, the beast would follow, dragging him back anyway. Slowly, painfully, Elias lowered his rifle and gave a short nod. The queen's lips curved slightly, not a smile, but something colder. She turned and walked back through the ruins, her soldiers marching behind her. Elias followed, the beast beside him like a moving wall of light and muscle. Every step echoed with the weight of fate he could not escape. They led him to the landing site where sleek black warships waited. Their hulls shimmered with alien symbols, sharp and cruel. The ramp of the lead ship lowered and the queen strode aboard, her crown catching the sunlight. Elias hesitated at the bottom, his chest tight. The ship was no safe place. It was a prison wrapped in steel. Yet when the beast nudged him forward with a low growl, he had no choice but to climb inside. The interior was vast, lined with glowing panels and humming engines. Soldiers kept their distance, their eyes never leaving the beast. The queen stood at the center, her armor glinting in the dim light. She turned to Elias, studying him as though trying to see through his skin. "You are no ordinary soldier," she said at last. "Others would have been torn apart for daring to stand where you stand now. Yet the beast guards you. It bends to you. Do you know what that means?" Elias shook his head slowly. "No, I don't even know why it's doing this." The queen's gaze sharpened. "It means the bond between you and my beast is real. And bonds are not broken by will alone. It has tied itself to you, and by that to me." Her voice softened slightly, though it still carried the edge of command. "You are mine now, human. Whether you wish it or not." Elias clenched his fists, anger rising. "I'm not yours. I'm no one's." The queen's soldiers shifted uneasily, but she raised a hand to silence them. Her eyes never left his, cold fire burning within. "We shall see." The beast let out a low growl, its glowing body pressed between them as though to keep both from striking. The queen regarded it with something almost like sorrow, but it vanished quickly. She turned away, her cape flowing like shadow. "Set course for the capital," she commanded. The ship lifted into the sky, engines roaring. Elias felt the weight of chains, though none bound him. He glanced at the beast, its eyes glowing steady beside him. Somewhere deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. The queen had claimed him, and the galaxy would never forgive it. The capital of the queen's empire was unlike anything Elias had ever seen. Towering spires rose into the sky like blades of silver, their tips glowing with alien light. Ships swarmed the air like flocks of steel birds, and everywhere he looked, soldiers and citizens bowed their heads as the queen's vessel descended. Elias stood near the ramp, his stomach tight, his broken armor out of place among the polished ranks of alien warriors. At his side, the beast glowed like a walking storm, its presence turning fear into silence wherever it passed. When the ramp lowered, the queen stepped out first. The crowd fell to their knees, chanting her name. Elias followed reluctantly, the beast's heavy steps echoing behind him. Gasps rippled through the crowd when they saw him, a human, ragged and scarred, walking beside their queen's war beast as if it were his guardian. Whispers filled the air, suspicion and fury mixing with fear. They entered the palace, a vast hall of black stone lit with glowing blue crystals. The walls seemed alive, pulsing faintly with power. Soldiers lined the way, but their hands stayed on their weapons, eyes darting nervously to the beast. Elias kept his head high, though inside he felt small, swallowed by the sheer weight of this place. At the end of the hall, the queen turned sharply. Her eyes burned as she studied him again, her voice carrying through the silence. "You walk in my court, human, not as prisoner, but not as free man either. You stand because my beast allows it, and that is what troubles me most." Her words made the hall tremble with unease. Advisors stepped forward, tall figures with jeweled robes and sharp tongues. One of them pointed at Elias with contempt. "He is dangerous, my queen. The beast belongs only to you. If it bows to him, then it must be trickery. Allow us to test him. If he fails, end him before the people begin to doubt your rule." The queen's soldiers cheered the idea, their armored fists striking their chests. Elias felt their hatred burning like fire. He glanced at the beast, its glowing stripes flickering brighter as if sensing his fear. The queen raised her hand, silencing the noise. "So be it, he will be tested, not by words but by fire." Her gaze pinned Elias like a blade. "If you are nothing, you will die quickly. If you are something more, then we will all see it." That night Elias was taken to the arena. It was a vast circle of stone under the open sky, torches blazing at its edges. Thousands filled the stands, their alien eyes glowing as they chanted for blood. Elias was shoved into the center, his broken rifle tossed aside. He wore only light armor, patched and battered, hardly enough for what he was about to face. The gates opened, and a creature emerged. It was not the Queen's beast, but another monster, smaller yet still towering over him. Its body armored with jagged plates and its mouth dripping venom. The crowd roared with hunger. Elias tightened his fists, his breath sharp in his chest. He had survived battles before, but this was no battlefield. This was a spectacle, a test meant to kill him. The beast at his side had not followed. The Queen had ordered it held back, chained with glowing restraints of energy. It struggled, glowing stripes flaring, bright eyes locked on him with fury. Elias met its gaze once before the creature in the arena lunged. The impact shook the ground as claws slammed toward him. Elias dove aside, rolling hard, the dust choking his lungs. He grabbed a piece of broken spear from the ground, its edge jagged but sharp enough. The crowd screamed for his death, their chants echoing in the night. Elias rose to his feet, facing the monster alone. He was no longer fighting just for survival. He was fighting to prove something neither the Queen nor her empire could deny. The crowd's roar shook the arena walls. Elias gripped the broken spear tighter, his arms trembling but his eyes steady. The monster before him circled low, its armored plates rattling like steel drums, venom dripping from its jagged jaws. Its breath stank of rot and heat. Elias's heart thundered, but he forced himself to stay calm. Panic meant death. The creature lunged again, claws tearing the ground. Elias rolled sideways, dust burning his throat, the monster's strike missing him by inches. He scrambled up, driving the broken spear toward its flank. Sparks flew as the tip scraped against armored plates too shallow to pierce. The crowd jeered, convinced the human was finished. The monster swung its tail like a whip. It caught Elias across the chest and threw him sprawling into the dirt. Pain seared through his ribs and the broken spear clattered away. The crowd roared louder, hungry for blood. Above, in her royal seat, the Queen watched with cold, unreadable eyes. Elias staggered to his knees, coughing blood. He had nothing now, no weapon, no armor worth saving him, only his will to keep standing. He forced himself up, breath ragged, and stared into the monster's glowing eyes. If this is how it ends, he muttered to himself, then I'll make it count. The monster charged again. Elias dodged at the last second, leaping onto a fallen column half buried in the sand. The beast slammed into the stone, cracking it apart. Elias grabbed a jagged shard and rammed it down as the creature turned. This time the shard found softer flesh between the plates, sinking deep. The beast shrieked, a sound like tearing metal, and thrashed wildly. The crowd gasped, their chant breaking for the first time. Elias clung to the shard, forcing it deeper, his muscles screaming with effort. The monster slammed him against the wall and his vision blurred, but he did not let go. With one final roar, the creature collapsed, blood spraying across the sand. Elias rolled free, every bone in his body aching. He rose to his feet slowly, drenched in sweat and dust, barely able to stand, but alive. The arena fell silent. Thousands of alien eyes fixed on him in disbelief. Then, from the far side, a new sound broke the silence. A deeper roar, one that made the ground quake. The Queen's war beast had broken its restraints. Glowing energy chains lay shattered as it stormed into the arena, its stripes blazing like fire. The soldiers tried to stop it, but none dared stand in its way. The crowd screamed as the massive creature leapt down beside Elias, landing with a crash that shook the arena floor. The beast's glowing eyes locked on Elias, and then it bowed, its massive head pressing against his chest. The gesture was unmistakable. The bond was real. The war beast had chosen. The arena erupted in chaos. Some shouted in fear, others in awe. Advisors argued in the stands, demanding the Queen end this insult. But she raised her hand and silence fell again. Her eyes were locked on Elias, burning not with anger now, but something far sharper. Curiosity. She rose slowly from her throne, her voice echoing across the arena. A human. Wounded, unarmed. And yet you survived where others would have died. And still my beast kneels for you. She let the words hang heavy in the air, daring anyone to challenge them. None did. Elias stood, blood running from his wounds, the beast at his side like a living wall. He did not bow, he did not kneel. He only met the Queen's eyes across the arena, his breath steady despite the pain. For the first time she smiled, though it was cold and sharp. So be it, she declared. You will not be executed. You will not be silenced. You will live. Under my watch. and the galaxy will know that my beast and the human it chose both belong to me." The crowd roared, shaken between fear and devotion. Elias felt the weight of her words press against him, heavier than any chain. He had survived the trial, but his freedom had been lost in victory. The arena was still echoing with the roar of the crowd when Elias was taken back into the palace. Soldiers flanked him on every side, but none dared touch him, not while the war beast padded silently at his side, glowing eyes burning holes in anyone who came too close. Elias walked with a limp, blood soaking through his armor, but he kept his head high. He knew that if he showed weakness now, they would eat him alive. Inside the grand hall, the queen sat waiting. Her throne rose high above the chamber, carved from black stone and lined with glowing veins of crystal. Advisors crowded around her, speaking in harsh whispers, demanding explanations, urging her to end the human before he threatened her rule. Elias felt their eyes like knives in his skin, but the queen raised her hand and silence fell. Her gaze fixed on him alone. "You survived," she said simply, her voice carrying like thunder through the chamber. "And more than that, you forced my beast to break its chains for you." Elias clenched his fists. "I didn't force anything. It chose me. I don't know why, but it did." Her eyes narrowed. "Do you think I do not see that? For centuries this beast has obeyed only me. It has crushed my enemies, torn down fleets, brought entire worlds to their knees, but never once has it lowered its head for another. Until now." The advisors hissed their anger, demanding again that Elias be killed. "This is dangerous," one cried. "If the people believe he is chosen, it will divide the empire." But the queen cut them off with a single glance. "It does not divide, it strengthens." She leaned forward, her eyes burning into Elias's. "Don't you see? You are not my enemy. You are my proof. Proof that the bond between human and beast exists. Proof that even fate itself bends to me." Elias shook his head slowly. "No, that's not what this means. It chose me, not you. You want to use me to make yourself stronger, but you don't control this. Not anymore." Gasps filled the hall. Soldiers stepped forward, weapons raised, but the beast growled low and they froze. The queen, however, did not move. Her lips curved into something between a smirk and a snarl, bold words for a human who stands in my palace. "But tell me, Elias, if it is not my power that binds you here, why have you not left? Why do you still stand before me instead of fleeing into the stars?" Elias had no answer. Part of him wanted to run, to disappear before the weight of her gaze crushed him completely. But another part, a deeper part, knew the truth. The beast would not leave her empire, and now neither could he. The queen stood, her presence filling the hall. She descended the steps of her throne until she stood just a breath away from him. The crowd of advisors held theirs, unsure if she would strike him down or crown him. Her voice dropped low, almost soft. "The galaxy watches us now. They whisper already of the human who walks beside my beast. Some call it a blessing. Others call it an omen. But all agree it cannot be ignored. So you will stay, Elias. You will walk beside me, not as slave, not as king, but as something new, a bridge between my empire and the unknown future." Elias met her gaze, his jaw tight. He felt the beast press against his leg, its warmth steady and grounding. He did not trust her. He doubted he ever would, but he could not deny the truth in her words. The galaxy was watching, and his life was no longer his own. The queen turned back to her throne, her voice rising again to command the hall. "Prepare the fleets. Let the galaxy see us together. Let them tremble at what they cannot understand." The advisors bowed reluctantly, but their eyes burned with hate for Elias. He knew he had only survived one battle. The real war, the one for his soul, for his freedom, was still ahead. The queen's fleet spread across the stars, banners shining like blades of light. On every world, whispers grew louder. The human who had survived the beast's rage, the war monster bowing its head to him in front of thousands. To some, Elias was a sign of change. To others, a threat. Elias stood on the balcony of the palace, looking out at the endless city below. The war beast lay curled near him, its glowing stripes casting soft colors across the stone. For days he had been paraded before the people, shown as proof of the queen's power. Yet every time he met her eyes, he saw something more than command. He saw curiosity, and maybe, just maybe, fear. At night, when the halls were quiet, Elias spoke softly to the beast. "Why me?" he asked. It never answered, only pressed its massive head against him as if to remind him he was not alone. That comfort kept him steady even as he realized what was coming. War was never far in this galaxy. The Queen's enemies were gathering, angered by the sight of a human standing where no one else ever had. Soon fleets would arrive to test her, to test him, and the Queen herself seemed ready to invite it, to prove to the galaxy that no matter what, her beast and the human chosen by it were hers to command. The storm came faster than Elias expected. One morning, the sky above the capital burned red as enemy ships broke through the defense line. Sirens wailed, soldiers scrambled, and the Queen strode into the command chamber, armor gleaming like fire. Elias followed, the beast at his side, its growl rolling like thunder. "This is the moment," the Queen said, her voice sharp. "They come to destroy it, but together we will show them what cannot be destroyed." She looked at Elias, her eyes unblinking. "You will ride with my beast. You will fight at my side." The galaxy must see it. Elias hesitated. He had never trusted her. She was ruthless, her empire built on blood. But he could see the truth now. This was not about her alone. This was about survival. His, the beast's, and maybe the hope of something greater. When the battle began, the city shook under fire. Towers cracked, flames rose, and the air filled with the shriek of engines. From the gates, the beast leapt into the fray, Elias clinging to its back. Its glowing stripes blazed like lightning as it tore through enemy machines, claws ripping metal apart, horns smashing tanks to dust. Soldiers scattered, unable to face the fury of the living storm. At the Queen's side, Elias fought like a man who had nothing left to lose. Not because he loved her empire, but because he would not see the beast fall. Blaster fire rained around him, but the creature's body shielded him, roaring with every strike. The sight of a human and the Queen's war beast fighting as one shook their enemies to the core. By nightfall, the battle was won. The enemy fleets retreated, broken and humiliated. The city still burned, but it stood. And in the silence that followed, the people of the Empire looked not just at their queen, but at the human who had fought beside her. For the first time, their eyes did not hold only fear. Some held hope. On the palace steps, the Queen stood tall, blood and ash on her armor. She looked at Elias, and for once her voice lost its sharpness. "You have changed everything," she said quietly. Elias looked down at the beast, curled once more at his feet, its glowing eyes steady. He had no crown, no throne, no power except the bond that had started in the ruins, and yet that bond had shaken empires. "I didn't change it," Elias said. "We did." He rested his hand on the beast's horn, and for the first time since the war began, he felt not like a soldier, but something more. A man who had survived, who had been chosen, and who had found his place, not in power, not in rule, but in the trust of a creature that the galaxy itself had feared. The Queen turned away to face her people, her voice rising to declare victory. But Elias stayed with the beast, the two of them resting in the glow of the burning sky. Whatever came next, they would face it together.